What's your favorite formula?
Probably index match.
That's a
I
formula
do want to.
combination.
That's
Two
very
formulas.
fair. That's very fair. I have an answer for you, I think. Can I give one of two?
Really exciting to have Max on this episode of Sheet Talking. Former Google, former Nielsen, former Twitch, former Buzzfeed. And we don't even get into the Google part of this. In this conversation, we talk about our spreadsheets and making apps and how to do it. If you have a question for this former Googler about working at Nielsen, Buzzfeed, Twitch, or Google, put in the comments down below what your question is. I'm happy to have Max back and do another episode of She Talking. If you have the questions, put them in down below. Really excited to get to this conversation. We're two wizards, one a spreadsheet wizard, the other a spreadsheet wizard. You have sheetswizard.com. I have
Yeah.
I claim I am a self-professed, self-named wizard at bettersheets.co, but you are sheetswizard.com. So
Yeah.
and is there any reason you say Sheets Wizard and not just Sheet Wizard? Or you're a wizard of multiple sheets, or you took the Google Sheets?
The latter, that one. I think because in so like we were talking about a minute ago, so in defining like what is unique about this channel, not getting mixed up with like the broader world of coaching, I was like, I want to make you a Sheets wizard. So yeah, I did, between us and everyone watching. Yeah, I didn't put the trademark in there, but yeah, the idea is to really be Google Sheets specific. I would also say, because we can talk about it, but I did begin this career of teaching people, or found my interest of teaching through Excel. And then when my second job was on Google Sheets, when I finally joined a Sheets organization, I was pretty wowed and won over, and specifically started teaching a course tailored to switchers. So it's called How I Learned to Stop Hating and Love Google Sheets. And so I do want to just basically keep my lane as targeted and focused as possible. Also, because a lot of my work is not education, it's building apps that work in the Google Workspace marketplace. And I remember liking that about your channel, as I was like, okay, well, you have like sort of this audience of like, if I think I'm more enterprise focused, like I want to help people like, put heavily engineered apps into their workplace. And then I really loved some of your like templates and like sort of catering to a more broader user base. Like that seemed really cool. So yeah, it was about me being very enterprisey and a real work nerd, and wanting people to be great at Google Sheets in their workspace organizations, or G Suite at the time.
My God, I think we have a lot of parallels and a lot of like intersections here.
I
Um,
bet.
the fact that like I worked for 5 years at an organization and I just did the Google Sheets there. You worked at multiple organizations, much bigger than the ones that I worked at, but you were working with Google Sheets internally at a large corporation, and then can take that expertise and teach people. That's what I originally thought Better Sheets was going to be, was like, oh, I had this experience of 5 years working. Let me just help other people who are in an organization, they happen to use Google Sheets. But like, it's changed so much since then. And yeah, I have definitely chosen to broaden. I broadened my scope so much that I just made a Barbie themed spreadsheet. So
I love that. Yeah, you see, I don't get to have fun. I'm like dealing with like the IT and HR crowd. I'm kidding. I get to make it a little fun. But yeah, I mean, the one other thing too with my brand name, I'll say, is like, there was a very specific thing that I wanted people to be able to feel, which was kind of like we just said. I bet we overlap in this way. There's often a certain type of person who just becomes the Sheets person in their company, where everyone's just like, oh, I have a question, I bet I'll ask Max or Andrew, right? And like, I'll ask this person and I bet they can do the sheet stuff for me. I it's especially at BuzzFeed, and even before that with Excel and Nielsen, was making like a lot of connections like that, where I'm realizing no matter what your job is, people are coming to you and saying, I'm pushing a bunch of stuff in spreadsheets. I need help. I need help with a spreadsheet task. And there actually was sort of like an ironic, bittersweet thing that led to the brand name, which was I felt like people were a little afraid of me at BuzzFeed. So when you're in HR, you tend to be one of the there's probably fewer people doing code and sheets than there are doing HR specializations, right? So people would kind of walk up behind my computer and see like an IDE where I was coding something in app script and be like, ooh, whatever you're doing, it sounds scary. And they would almost kind of like put me at a distance for doing all this cheat stuff and code stuff. And they would compliment me, but like keep away from me a little bit, right? And so what I wanted, I didn't want them to sort of pejoratively be like, oh, that's the Sheets wizard over there, let's leave him alone. I wanted other people to get that same feeling, right? I wanted you to walk away feeling like you personally could say, I'm a Sheets wizard. So that's sort of where that brand came from. Versus I want it to be about like kind of blazing your own identity in an organization. And that's why it's also very enterprise focused.
Yeah, I found sort of a different ethos here. Is like when I was working and people would ask me a question about Google Sheets, I didn't, it was me not wanting them to come back and get that again. I wanted to empower them to do this themselves so they wouldn't bother me again. Like I'm like, let me just show you, like I can explain it, but like let me just show you how to do this, and then now you can do it on your own, and you do it. And like going through that motion of teaching people, I didn't think I would ever be a good teacher. In fact, like 15 years ago, I was living in Mongolia, and like I was trying to teach an English course. I didn't go there to teach English. I ended up doing it for like a few weeks. I was the worst. I was the worst teacher ever. And I ended up playing like improv games with the kids, just getting up and like saying words and doing these improv games, and literally became the most favorite teacher at that school.
Aw.
But I didn't know how to teach English. And so that like I didn't want to be a teacher. I didn't think I could be a good teacher. But going through that experience every single day, someone asking you, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like if you answer someone's question and they now know the answer, they can give it to someone else, but then that person will be like, how did you find that out? And they're not going to say, oh, I Googled it. It's like, oh, I asked Max. Oh, I go ask Max. And then they'll get asked the question and they're like, I don't know the answer. Go ask Max. Like, right. And then more and more people ask you. And then what happened to me was like, I just kept Googling every single day. You have a question, I'll go Google it for you and show it to you. Did that happen? Is that a self-fulfilling prophecy for you too?
Well, what's funny, I'll tell you what I'm reacting to is like, I ended up not being a great teacher, or that wasn't where my focus was. Because I say that because like, I think my friend Garrett, who's great at building these online businesses, he was like, why don't you put up a simple form in front of all your tutorials? And this is when I started blogging. And as a little extra preface, like the blog for me came from a very simple place. It was what you're describing. It was people would quit my organization and I'd get a message on LinkedIn that said, hey, I want to remember how to do that thing. I want to remember, can you please help me? And my sort of like way of trading for free help is like, I'd love to just publish a blog post. I'm sure it would help other people. So like my probably most read thing on the internet is just like someone saying, oh, how did you make our Google Forms trigger an email? And I write up a quick blog post and that gets read like a lot per month. So I ended up just sort of like putting code onto blogs because of questions like that. But I think the reason, so anyway, back to Garrett. So he suggested that if I wanted to figure out my user base more, if I could like make them a product or make them a course, just put up a simple survey. And the survey would usually have a question like, did you come here to learn how to code, how to do something in Sheets, or did you just want the outcome, right? So like, did you want to learn how to use Google Apps Script to send emails, or were you just hoping somebody had made some free code you could copy paste? The majority of people were the latter, right? Like they didn't want to be experts. They just really enjoyed the use. So to keep it short, like I do feel like that ended up shifting my work towards trying to make add-ons, right? Feeling like people weren't all trying to make a career around being the Sheets wizard, and a lot of them wanted to just be able to click the buttons that made them do the stuff that was a pain for them at work. So that definitely shifted me out of pedagogy mode and into, like if you see some of my blog posts now, I got rid of like the free code sample that you could just copy. And I said, you know, if you want to learn more, if you want to work with the tool that does this at scale, you know, reach out.
Yeah, that's a similar path. I had been doing, Better Sheets for a couple years and thought, rightly so, when you're sort of naive or a novice at this sort of teaching part, you're like, let me just write it down. Let me show you how to do this. And yeah, the vast majority of people are like, can you just do this for me? Like,
Yeah.
I go back and forth too. And I only ended up creating Google Sheet add-ons in December 2022. So that like from now, that was less than a year ago. But it was more than 2 years into having bettersheets.co, which is like teaching to, I had already made tools within Sheets. So I knew like, okay, yeah, some people wanted to learn the thing, like even only
Yeah.
which is a paywall for Google Sheets, still to this day is not like a downloadable tool. It's just an app script
Yeah.
you have to copy paste into your sheet. And like,
And a lot, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, like, and I could have, and I think I even did show like a little tutorial of like, here's how you code this thing. And I probably bring it up multiple times in some videos of like, here's this one line, like Only Sheets is essentially one line of code. And it's just like a whole bunch of stuff to get that line of code to do the thing it does. And I wish like I could just teach people to do this and they can give me more ideas. But yeah, the vast majority of people actually just like, I just want to get the thing done.
Yeah, and I was gonna like just share an anecdote. Maybe it's relatable, or maybe it's worth telling like this audience, which is like I was so sad recently because I sort of found a lose-lose situation where a lot of my roadmap lately is, I've now had enough jobs where I'm like, wow, a lot of people really have the same needs. Like this one little thing, for example, I'll just name one. I would be willing to bet there's hardly a big company in America who doesn't have a finance team aggressively paying consultants and chopping and chopping and chopping spreadsheets with full of like headcount and personnel data to try to like do their modeling, like tons of like intermediary work that you could theoretically solve with AppScript or with the source data. And so I started to say, well, if I made some real complex automation in the past or spreadsheet for that in the past, I should just try to get it out there on the internet. And I did make something I was really proud of called Work Data Sheets for like the HR crowd and the finance crowd. And the problem is people will tell me, well, I don't have a max in my organization, so I can't use that. And it like breaks my heart because I'm like, the whole point was to make it feel like you had me there, right? Like you don't need me there because Google has finally empowered me to release my code. And so I don't know if you have the solution to that one, but I'm really trying to figure out that marketing challenge of people realizing that the code actually reduces the need for some sort of tech person to be messing around with the spreadsheets.
Do you sell so your add-ons, do you sell them at a cost, like is it a subscription?
I would be lying if I said I figured that out because I usually will change them around during their lifetime. I would say that and it's like ends up being kind of a mixed bag of like, did people buy some of them when they were subscription based or not? The real answer is no. I think I at least got the intelligence or the sense that people would want to pay once. I'm part of this really nice program called the Google Developer Experts Program, and it's full of the people who do this for a living at a huge scale. They always say they wish they had charged more and in bigger doses, right? So less the monthly subscription and more just make life simple for people. So a little bit less subscription. I
Are they
would
all
say the one thing I
individually
really,
priced?
yeah. Really just usually coming up with something based on peer tools. I think the thing that I would love to see is like Google doesn't really have the infrastructure right now for payments. So you have to I've sat down so many weekends and said that I'm going to implement the very robust Stripe flow people use to charge for their apps. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But I have been burned because I'll save that story I'll take a breath and then share that story. But I've been burned by letting my free trials run too long. Let's just put it that way. Or I'll tee it up that way.
What do you mean by free trials run too long? Like you, but it's an add-on, right? And it's downloadable. Yeah. And there are companies, right, that their entire business model is just like $2.99 a month, $2.99 a month, and you get access to all their add-ons, right?
Yeah. And are you seeing people buy those, like the Power Tools kind of model?
Nope.
Yeah.
I don't know how these companies exist. I mean, AbleBits is like one of them, right? And I look at their business model all the time. I'm like, should I be doing this? Like, I have 6 Google Sheet add-ons, $0 from them, because I just give them away for free, and it like it's problematic to give so much stuff for free because then I'll like do a workshop and I just happen to talk with the people in the workshop and I'm like, oh, by the way, like why did you become a member and why did you buy this workshop? And they're like, oh, I've been
Mm.
following you for a year and I never had a reason to buy from you. I was like, what? Like, I what?
Conversion's tough, right? Yeah, I mean, and that's the weird part is like I understand internet conversion rates are low, but it is interesting. Like there have been times where I will see like a 5-digit number for downloads. So I'll see like 30,000 downloads. I'm like, wow, that's a lot. I bet I should get some of those people to buy it. And I'll throw up a new price or a paywall and like, very few to zero
Yeah.
responses to that, right? So it goes to show people definitely are trying a ton of stuff. I did actually once try I daydreamed, in trying to come up with this brand but not be too kitschy. I kind of wanted to do like a Patreon model. So the idea like, well, if there are most of my traffic is like people on LinkedIn who know and like me, and I'll say, hey, all of my stuff, take it for one price and be like my Phantom of the Opera or whatever. Like I've played with that idea, but I think in general you do probably make the biggest strides by finding internet strangers who really want to accomplish the thing you empower them to do. Gotta try to do more of that.
Yeah. This is sort of anecdotal, and there was okay, so Labnal, like Amit, who
Yeah.
runs Digital
Oh yeah.
Inspiration, right?
A legend. Yeah.
Legend, because I learned like everything I learned about AppScript 10 years ago, I learned from his blogs.
Mm.
And he was featured, quote unquote, featured on My First Million, and they did this like back of the
I was about
napkin
to ask you
analysis.
about this.
They did the back of the napkin analysis, and they're like, this guy must be making $20 million a year.
Mm.
And their back of the napkin math was like, he's getting 12 million downloads of this, Google Sheet add-on, and it converts at 1%, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, actually, that conversion is probably more like zero. Like actual zero.
It's like, without guessing or saying more out of line, like the Ahmed is in the program. And so I remember the day where everyone was sharing those articles and being like, look at what they're saying about one of us. And yeah, the typical person was having a laugh, including I think Ahmed himself, or like, yeah, that's not exactly how this works. But it's funny because I was gonna ask if you heard that podcast, because Sean from My First Million was at Twitch with me and was one of the people who helped me think about how to start this brand. And yeah, like in some ways, I mean, I still listen to them because I'm still thinking about leveraging what they taught me. I mean, I can share his advice, which I thought was really good. I don't know if it's worked for me, but one thing we talked about was I think you might have this, I might have seen something like this on your site, a business expense request form. So essentially, like my goal, because I worked at all of these like big corporations with really like obscene learning and development budgets. Like you would go buy a $500 course just for fun because like why not? Like that was part of a learning budget. And I thought Sean's idea was, make a note, and the note says, dear manager, I need $500 for Max's course because it's going to make me do this, this, and this much faster and better. I thought that was like a really cool way to phrase it. And I did set one of those up. I don't know if anyone out there has ever used it, but I think it's definitely like good advice, right? Like go straight to helping a person justify the corporate budget request, assuming you're looking for those enterprise dollars.
Yeah, exactly. Assuming you're looking for the enterprise. Usually every business coach I talk to is like, why don't you do enterprise? There's these exactly the pattern you just did. They're like, there's companies that are paying for education. There's dollars out there for this kind of thing. And I'm not antagonistic towards that. I just don't think that it works it does not work so 1, 2, 3 as that. Like
no.
there's sort of sometimes shame, embarrassment is sort of an extreme version of it. But on the softer side, most people use Google Sheets. Like there's 2 billion users. And if you go from that side and you're like, okay, there's 2 billion users of Google Sheets, I only need to convert 1% to a paid membership. Like, but actually using spreadsheets and using Google Sheets is a embarrassing thing. Like people don't talk about with their coworkers. I mean, you and me, like we're so few and far between. Like we're the Google Sheets guy at the office, and there seems to be like a spreadsheets person at every office. But like the key to a business, the number one key to a business is making sure there's word of mouth. and you can create the word of mouth from like outside external things, or you can go to key influencers. The issue with offering that reimbursement, and I had it when I do workshops, Maven offers this sort of get reimbursed, and they send a
Oh,
special.
are you on Maven?
Yeah.
Oh,
So that's
cool.
probably where you might have, if it was anything attached to me, that's probably might have been where you saw that. And so it's
Right.
not me doing it, it was me. But there's this problem with having the employee ask the boss because there's no influence whatsoever. Sure, you're 100% right that there are company benefits of getting education and paying for education, but like a single user asking their boss for this thing, that's not word of mouth. Okay, maybe you get that one, but you still have to convert that person to like, I want to pay for this, I'll have my company pay for it. Conversion is still needed there. But
yeah.
So the enterprise advice that I get is like, just go to the company and go to the HR, and they'll buy 10 seats or 20 seats or 50 seats at a time. And I'm like, I'm not like built for that kind of sales. Like, I don't have the capacity to sit here on LinkedIn, like me personally, right? Other people might. Miss Excel, that's all she did was workshop. She was a Microsoft certified trainer. You are a certified Google developer expert. You can go through that certification, and that is like, being certified is catnip to HR, right? Oh, we hired this Google developer expert who's they're gonna give you 10 seats. Works perfectly, right? But like when I'm making Barbie themed dashboards, I made a Waffle House dashboard. You're not gonna send that to your boss and be like, I want to go through this course where I saw this TikTok of a guy making a Waffle House dashboard.
Yeah, well, you never know. I mean, like, you're reminding me of like a funny moment for me, which was I I did a post that was called "Building the Great Deku Tree" inside of Google Sheets, and so it was like a Zelda reference for anyone that's not clear. And I thought like, oh, I'm working at Twitch, and I think I really just thought it'd be cool if I could do the crawling text effect from like a Nintendo game, specifically Ocarina. And so it was just this whole challenge, this cool project. And the unexpected thing that happened was I got attention from enterprises because probably some Zelda fan who worked in analytics would like tell their manager, and then I would be like on the phone with them because they did understand that like the underlying feature, aside from all of the veneer, right? Like the theme and the cover of it, they saw through that and realized like, oh, the underlying feature is really useful. And that probably helped market it in a buzzier way than just the text itself. And I mean, I guess that's kind of like the lesson of the whole TikTok and YouTube genre, right? Which is it's a little bit less about the pedagogy and more about the marketing appeal.
Yeah, and this is something that I have recently figured out. I sort of wanted to do it over the last 3 years, but I figured it out that it's probably better for me to go for a much broader audience, far beyond Google Sheets. And this is just sort of, you had sort of mentioned it before we started, where like you were looking for like your niche, or like the thing that I hate saying niche, I hate specificity. Like, how do I differ from the other people? And just recently, this is something that maybe is useful to you in some way.
Sure.
Is I read this line that was like, God, you're like, sorry, I'm gonna paraphrase it for myself because I read it was about something else, but it hit me. It's like you're creating a diverse set of tips, tricks, and techniques where really people want a unified system of problem solving. Like, and that's what I read that line and I was like, oh my God, they found me. I've been found out. Like, I have hundreds of tutorials, but about like all different types of things, and it shows you over the shoulder editing, building stuff from scratch it's an hour-long tutorial. I have 5-minute tips, tricks, I have some techniques. Like, oh crap, yeah, there's no actual selling point. There's no point of like, okay, this guy does something, so like I recreated VisiCalc, like the nerdiest
cool
thing in the world. I recreated a spreadsheet software from 40 years before I was born. It was released, but I did it in Google Sheets, right? So that's like such a niche down specificity. Whereas what people really want to buy is a core system of problem solving. They want a system.
Yeah, and like you reminded me, I missed a kind of an important part of this brand. I'm intentionally being niche and niche, and
I
precluding myself. I am precluding myself and limiting my audience because a lot of the taglines, depending on where they appear that I played with, is I'm being very specific that there's so many people who will teach you like how to do a blank, like how to do a pivot table, whatever. And I specifically, kind of like when you said the line, teach a specific unified system. I wanted to teach you to excel at Google Sheets was my joke, right? Like I want you to be the best at it and do things quicker and at like this higher level than others. And so to me, that was the path I was trying to take to stay really specific. It was not just like, and here's an intro course. It was like, if you do this, people will be like, what the heck did I just see? And that was like kind of where the one shortcut class came from, is from trying to literally we talked about how dorky this stuff can be. So it's like, I would say like, well, how can I get people to flip out? Like my compliment of last year was someone who just wrote me and he was like, he didn't even know me. And he wrote me on Slack and he was like, I just dragged my wife out of the other room and I made her come watch this. And I was like, that's cool if someone has that much enthusiasm. Like, it's different than just how do I solve the challenge I have in front of me.
Right. I think we're in a similar like viewpoint, right? And sorry, you're trying to you used a word there that I think is super interesting and a lot of people have talked to me about it. Is like, what are the like marketing experts and like business coaches have like kept telling me or asking me these questions, and I'm like, I don't have a good answer. Is like, what's the number one problem people come to you with? Just solve that. They're like, just put that as the headline. What's the number one thing they need done? Like, and I'm like, oh my God, people need. I have gotten the most diverse questions from all over, from people who are excellent at Google Sheets, excellent at coding, still are like uncomfortable. They don't know what they can't do. They don't know what they don't know. They know what they don't know. Like, and it's not one of them. It's not like I know what I know and I don't know what I don't know. No, it's like they're part everything. And I can never do that. Like they're like, oh, just put the top 3 benefits people will gain, time saving automations and this and that. And I'm like, the reality is I worked at I became great at Google Sheets and I didn't save time. All of the reality is that we're going to use 40 hours a week at our job. These corporate overlords are going to squeeze 40 hours out of us no matter what. So if you create an automation, you're not saving that hour and you can go F off to lunch with your wife. Like you're still going to be sitting in front of a spreadsheet for another 8 hours. So I tried to dial it in. I tried originally to say this, and I don't think I've ever had a good way of saying it that actually sounds like a selling point, because it doesn't sound like a selling point. It sounds awful. But I'm like, I just want to make your experience in Google Sheets better so that like those 8 to 10 hours a day you spend in Google Sheets are just a better experience.
Oh, totally. And that's also like where the HR stuff that I do comes into play as well, which is like the same thing. Like it's old school to be like, things went 50% faster and we took care of, 20% more tickets. Like you want to actually tie to a business goal. And like for me, if there's one thing that I think is profound, it's like the really the biggest, craziest thing out there to me is the cost and lack of flexibility in like major third-party software people buy that could be replaced by like a great AppSheet app or a great Google App Script app, right? Like the amount of resourcing that goes into all these things that are basically just really glorified data apps that you could kind of just put together yourself in your own more flexible way. And I was taught again by like career experts and people not to ever say anything's cheaper, focus on being better, right? And I think that's the fun part, is when you can make it flexible and tailored to your use cases. And so every time I come up with an automation that outdoes like $200,000 of consulting or some old school clunky piece of software, that's when I'm most excited.
That is true. Yeah. I remember the first time that I had that experience when so I worked on at a TV network, and
Mm,
that's what I was doing Google Sheets for like 5 years. And one of the things is we had to log, we were shooting clips and we had to log the time, and we had a free trial, not even a free trial. I think we got a month of this like online logging software. And literally every time we used it, the app we were using worked. It logged the time, and then every single time we had to copy paste into a Google Sheet to use that. And so all I
yeah.
did was I think it was a weekend on a Friday, everyone went home, and like over the weekend, I was like, hey, can I make a timer in a Google Sheet? And I made this timer that you just click log in, log out, log in, log out, and then like you can reset it and stuff. I like figured out the edge
Nice.
cases. And then on Monday, I was like, hey, can you use this Google Sheet? And then and it was like I said that to the person who had it was like the PA who literally had to copy paste all the logs stuff to the other Google Sheet. And he's like, does that mean I don't have to like copy paste this? I mean, like, I'm like, no, it's already there. Like, oh yes, I'll use this. Like, of course
Nice.
I'll use this. And then every single time, every 3 months, we were like, should we go and get this software to make it easier to log? And I kept asking my bosses and like the other producers there, I was like, should we just get this software? And they're like, actually, what you made works better than the other thing, like all the time.
It's
Um,
exciting. It's a good
yeah, and
feeling.
that was super exciting, right? That's like, and yeah, do you want to give that in your business? Do you want to give that experience? Do you want to teach that experience of how do you build an app that you need? Do you want to build that app? Do you want to build that app for
Mhm.
one company at a high rate? Do you want to be like the consultant to come in and just like get rid of one piece of software that they're using, or the one that's like $100 a month? You can come in for, $1,000 a day and replace this $100 a month software. Um, there's sort of all of those lines of probabilities, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think you mentioned earlier there was one route that I tried and I learned my lesson, which is you were talking about how scaled support is so difficult. And
Mhm.
like the minute you try to focus on apps and not workshops and you try to get a ton of users, like support is really hard. And I, for one example, like was so excited because a post got someone to ask me for custom app making. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever because I was like, right, I can go into any organization and quickly spin up an app that'll do something they really needed and they don't have to buy something new. And I would say in reality, supporting that could be a lifetime of work, like never stop. Like every one little app you make could have so many things people need. Um, and two is a whole other topic, but like security, where um, I get concerned that, the minute you make something and you say, oh, I want to like show you how to use this, like the review process is so long. So um, I would rather make like, the one thing lots of people can use instead of trying to do custom app work. If I think about my favorite career moments, they're probably the times where, and again, these are very HR examples, but, HR tech is dominated by software from the early 2000s. And
Hmm.
when people say, oh, we really need to do a process like headcount planning or promotions, they literally mean they're going to take millions of Google Sheets and like send them all around the universe and do some spreadsheets course or work. I think that turning that into like a real application, which I tend to do with a lot of like web apps with custom code, but I think will really be like app sheets sooner or later. I find it so rewarding when I get to really play product manager and people enjoy an app I made. Like I like the littlest things like before I had the Sheets Wizard site, I was making the job wizard and the workforce wizard and calling all my tools
Mhm.
wizards. And, people would write me out of nowhere who I'd never met in my organization and say, the Gandalf GIF was so fun, right? Like I wasn't expecting to have some fun, like using a product built for an HR task. And those were like my favorite successes. So if I could have like sold those to the world, I totally would. And anyone's
Yeah.
welcome to ask, anyone out there.
I mean, it's problematic, but it's also, yeah, it has the highest highs and the lowest lows, right? Like you can build something for someone great. I get a lot of very specific and very vague at the same time. Like, can you build X, Y, and Z? And I'm like, I even ended up making like a video about this, is like, technically you can do anything. You just can't do everything. Like,
I like that.
like, because if I break down the problem into all its little bits, I'm like, yeah, each one of those things is absolutely 100% possible. But like stringing them all together and then wrapping it in a nice little bow that like you click one button and all this stuff happens. My hated word in this world is automatically.
Yeah.
Can you automatically do X, Y, and Z? I'm like, okay, just like, what's the trigger? Do you need this to be done every 5 minutes? Do you need this to be done based on some user inputting something, some user action? Like, automatic is not it's a vague term that people will use. And I'm just like, I just need based on what? Automatic means you do Y when X happens. Okay, just tell me the X and I'll tell you if it's possible or not.
I mean, I'll give you a flip side of that, which is my least favorite word, is kind of the opposite or the same coin, which is manual. And what I mean is I found myself at some weird politics, like some real weird like West Side Story fights within organizations over like, I guess maybe that's part and parcel of like, you make a custom application that frees data and does a bunch of stuff and you make certain people nervous. And I've been in these IT wars where people have gone up and tried to like shut me down and say, oh, well, we can't have any more manual process. And it's like, what do they really mean when they say manual? They don't actually mean by hand. They mean outside of the big enterprise software, right? So the minute you get Google Sheets involved, then people don't understand it. And even if you have coded, like it's like if you had made your time tracking app, people say, well, we don't like having a manual app. We want like a real solid paid one that's part of our suite. But your app is probably better. And it's like, totally like a denigration to say it's manual because it's not on the big grid.
Right. Like the manual process is exactly the same from a third-party app, which is like you click a button, something happens. Like click this button that like that's manual, or that's automatic when the button's like a pretty button, like the CSS and it's a HTML website and it's all integrated, right? But like that's automatic, and then it's manual when it's click a button in a Google Sheet, where like you didn't even think you could click a button in a Google Sheet. Like that was the issue is at that time. I mean, still is actually, there are no buttons in Google Sheets, right? Like you have to create a image and then assign a script to the image. Or now you can do checkboxes that can click true or false. And now you have like more clickable elements. But like 10 years ago, you could do the image assign script as well. Yeah, like that is so funny that those two words are exactly the same kind of vagueness. Like, and it's just people will use it as a excuse. Yeah, it's fun.
Seriously.
What did you find? So you worked at a number of companies. I want to get through those because you had some interesting experiences.
Totally.
You worked Nielsen, Buzzfeed, Twitch, huge companies. The one company I worked at, the Q, nobody knows, but we did create there's actually television networks that people do watch now, like hundreds of millions of people watch. We created, but nobody knows what that company. But everybody knows Nielsen, everybody knows Buzzfeed, everybody knows Twitch. Like,
and then Google, don't forget that.
Yeah, and you worked at Google.
For better or worse.
What did you find that was like, and all of these stops, right? By the way, you were the Google Sheets guy, but you were also working in HR.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, BuzzFeed was fantastic because I think that was the best collaborative effort, because BuzzFeed is where something was just in the water there, where like you started to make friends. Like there would be, a lot of people were like roughly in similar cohorts. I would start to like do, I play music, so I would be in musical jams with other ops and analyst people. Everyone was just really friendly and excited to introduce you to others. And so that led to a few good things, right? Which is and it was also before COVID, so it's probably very relevant that it was a very fun office where you go in every day and you'd meet 100 people, right? And so um, that led to sort of this understanding of just how widespread Sheets was. Like,
Hmm.
and I think some of the best examples would be, we kind of talked about this earlier in the call, where I would say I wanted to throw a course because I would have my, how to love Google Sheets course, and I would try to get people excited. And the course would be fine. And then the best part would be the many, many people who would reach out to me afterwards and say, and they'd be like, so I think my favorite example is like, imagine a team in Brazil who run a translator. So BuzzFeed was global and translating content, and they literally would say like, we have a translator app, and it was actually a spreadsheet with a bunch of lookups to
Mm-hmm.
function as a translator. And oh, we were watching your course, and this is the best kind of student, right? Where they say, oh, we saw your course, and this kind of makes me realize that I have the power to do this thing in a better way. And in short, it just led to tons of people from like wonderfully different jobs all saying like, oh, I'd love to learn how you do these formulas and tools and tips and tricks. And so that era was really like about understanding like needs. Whereas I would say at Twitch, it was more like, what can I code? Became a little bit more engineering heavy
Hmm.
and a little bit more confident with the ability to, and part of that's because like AppScript is not terribly reusable. So it's like eventually you've read enough tutorials and enough of Amit's posts that you have like a really good copy paste of like the framework for your
Mhm.
apps. And I know a lot of this will be out the window now with like the generative AI stuff, but I was really more able to just sit down quietly and like code an app that did something that no one thought was possible. And so it was more of like a soloist era. Um,
That's
and then
interesting that
yeah, like
that sounds like the culture there, right? At BuzzFeed, a collaborative culture. At Twitch, it's an engineering culture, right? Like, so
yes, I
interesting.
mean you're definitely, and I mean that was immediately like, it's not about Sheets, but like I left my first executive meeting at Twitch like almost in tears because the approach I had of like how to talk data and what to
Mhm.
present was like night and day different talking to editorial leadership versus engineering leadership. So I do feel like that was a big part of it. Like how can you make something that speaks to a bunch of other product and engineer types, and challenging myself to make the kind of work that would excite that audience.
Mhm.
For sure was very different. But then again, like, going way back to Nielsen, the one fun thing I always remember is that my first manager did me such a great service with this whole universe because I'm at this big measurement company, and my manager, Bob, was the longest tenured person in the company history. So he ended up being there for 42 years. And that meant that digital nativity was not his
Mhm.
strong suit, but so many other things were. And this is, it's like really old school where instead of automations, you have admins. You have people who you like email requests
Mhm.
to, and they type stuff into the Excel sheet. And it was before even like online collaboration through Excel or Microsoft Office.
Mhm.
So realizing in that moment like what you could offer people by having operational excellence in Sheets that's
Mhm.
my real origin moment.
That was the birth from the stone
Yeah.
of the sheet
The
feels.
minute that you realize that people want to update a database and they're sending a request via email to an administrative assistant, you're like, there's got to be a better way. And
And that's where you were
that's where
making macros.
yeah, VBA macros.
Yeah, I learned that too. I mean, I was working on a cruise ship, and I got
Ah,
like,
cool.
so we had no internet connectivity. I mean, we had internet, but like not for our information databases and stuff. So yeah, I had basically departments were filling in this Excel sheet, and then I literally was the person at night. I had to take all of the information from all these departments, put it into a master Excel sheet, and I was like, I think there's a better way to do this, and it was VBA. It was macro.
Oh
It
yeah.
was awesome.
Yeah,
Oh,
and the irony is that as much as I am so glad to have moved off of VBA, um, my whole vision for Sheets Wizard really was born because I was saying earlier I wanted to make like a self-taught course like Code Academy. And through VBA, I still have the original course, which was called Page Down for What? Guide to Excel Shortcuts. And you would be able to just take it on your own because it's essentially just buttons, and you
mhm.
solve the code or click the right button, and then the macro processes your answer and does a bunch of sheets transformation to make it feel like you're doing levels in an arcade game. So the whole original dream of the arcade game of Google Sheets was actually born in VBA.
Yeah, I mean, this is so interesting, right? Like, how do you teach someone something? And with the number one way to teach right now, which is not necessarily the best way, is just like, here, let me show you, right? Like, let me just watch this video. It's a lecture. You're just you can pause it, you can stop it, you can rewind it, but you can't like interact with it. And so you create some interactivity with like, oh, here's a sheet that you have. But what I found, there's one weird thing that I found, and I don't know if this is going to help you or give you another.
Yeah.
Is like, I was selling, not selling, but I asked, Better Sheets members, I asked them, why did you buy Better Sheets? And a profound number we're talking about confidence. They're like, I wanted more confidence in Google Sheets. And like, how do you teach confidence? You cannot teach confidence by just lecturing someone, just talking at them. And one single template, like, okay, you can type this template and watch this video. These things are the basis of online learning now, but they're not going to teach you confidence. And I was just like racking my brain. And part of it was also they wanted confidence. They thought, oh, the comprehensiveness of it was good. But what I found is the number one thing that I wrote online, like blog post that's getting like the best traffic now, is an error and how to fix that error. And I was like, well, I can continue making videos about each and every error and then how to fix that error. But like, that still doesn't breed, like, how do you empower someone to like feel like an error isn't a bad thing? And again, I can tell someone, don't fear errors, seek out errors. And I said that in a couple of tutorials, but I was still unsatisfied with this as a teaching method. I was like, this lecturing is not working. And so what I did is I created a Google Sheet that I wrote the same app script like 9 times, and then I introduced an error into each one. So you get the Google Sheet. You don't have to type the thing out. You don't have to like one of the things was like figuring out the for loop is one of the like the hardest things to learn in app script. And I realized I was actually, so I have a young son, he's 2 years old, and I was at a kindergarten. He's not in kindergarten, but I was just like, I saw a bunch of workbooks, and it's the letter A just like over and over and over and over again. It's just the letter A. And it's just, oh yeah, you learn the letter A by just writing the letter A over and over and over again. So I was like, well, I can't just, I can't tell someone, write the for loop 20 times. Like that is, again, lecturing. It's just pushing that into someone. And I was like, okay, what if I wrote it 20 times and introduced some error, and you saw the for loop and you fixed the error? The whole thing was a worksheet, a workbook fixing errors, and they progressively got harder and harder and showed an error code. So now I wish it was more popular. Like, I love this. I think it's the coolest thing I ever did, which is the stupidest thing I've ever did, probably. I wish it was more popular, but because people don't understand it, and my framing is probably wrong. But I thought it was a breakthrough in getting away from lectures and being like, here's this essentially toy, right? That like, okay, I've already written the for loop for you 9 times. Each one has an error. You can see the error code and read the error code and then fix the problem, because the error code is just going to tell you where the error is and go fix it.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's like a good segue to me into I'm curious how the AI revolution of the last couple months, which I have mixed feelings about, has striked you. Because for me, your story makes me think of 2 things. One is ChatGPT is great, but I get a lot of code that's just wrong or throws an error in context. And I find that that's part of one reason why I like these tools but don't fear them or anything like that, is because it still does take a lot of know-how to handle like the context and the errors that you run into. And then 2 is just because what I actually do love is I was asked, I'll tell the story in a fun way, which is that I was asked to do a work sample for a job interview in a language I have not used in years, since BuzzFeed. Because at BuzzFeed, I used to sit with the Python folks and do tons of data science work. And long story short, I was able to complete an assignment in a language I didn't know anymore because I could combine the working knowledge I had from years before with, the code help from ChatGPT. And what I thought was cool about that was like, you still have to kind of have a brain for what you're doing and know your context and know the why behind it. But I think a lot of people run into that need of the repetition you're describing because we're not engineers. We don't day in and day out need to write the same automations. So it's just so easy to intellectually know how to do something, but then every few months when you have to go back and repeat a similar exercise or a new job, you have to think about it all over again, right? And that's a tough part about being like a citizen developer, I think.
Yeah, I think what I liked about it too is that it's hard to overcome those errors, because even for me, someone will show me an error and they're like, what does this mean? And I will literally just read the error, and the error says the problem. Yeah, do you get the I don't know if you get this, but oh shoot, not reference error. Oh my god, I forgot the actual error, but it's an error in Sheets where it'll say cannot overwrite data in C5.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I forgot the actual error name, but like the problem is like it's an array formula that like you added
Yeah.
a
You
row.
busted the hologram.
Yeah,
You got in the way of the magical hologram.
it's perfect. And I get this question so many, like it was so often. How do I fix it? What happened? How do I fix this? I got this error. And I'm like, the error tells you C5, like it. And they'll show me, they'll be like, oh, the last thing I did is I entered this data into C5, and then this error showed up and it says cannot overwrite data in C5. And I'm like, what about this do you not understand? And I really, people don't understand that. I'm like, wait, this is problematic. Like most people won't understand this. But it's like because they see an error. Like errors are scary.
It's true. And I mean, the thing that like maybe like a good late in the game thought for us to share here for anyone who's listening is like like people ask me why I love the Google developer expert community. And it's literally like, think about some of those errors. Think about times where you've been working on something really hard and like just can't quite get it to work. And it's almost as if like the whole trajectory of your life will change if someone's around who's an expert to help you with those questions, right? Like the fact that you break through some of those walls and you had like a really cool idea and you actually got through the one problem and made it execute. Like those are the moments where community and having like access to experts matters the most. And so I try to aim to be that type of person as much as possible.
It is, and it's like you need that problem to have the pickup. Like if you're flat line, I love this line. If your life is a flat line, you're dead. Like a heart monitor goes up and down. Like that's life, right? Up and down. And so like you need that error, you need that problem, and to know that the overcoming of the problem is vastly the distance between the trough and the height is like double, right? Then just we get over this roadblock, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
I like empowering
so
people that.
Yeah, I mean the thing I haven't done yet, maybe I'll ask you how you feel about it, which is I had a dream. So I recently put into an app. I acquiesced and I threw like a chat GPT plugin into my Sheets Wizard app because I was like, oh, people will ask it a question. What I really wanted to do is not try to be like, oh, here's a generative AI helper. I've always had a dream that people would like pay to be in a community or to like get that kind of help. And so my real dream was to do a man versus machine thing, was to say, do you have a question? Have people ask it of chat GPT and get like a fairly generic answer, and then somehow let them say, was that not good enough or not like more detailed, like write Max himself. So that's my real secret end game, is like actually do the insane and unscalable thing and like put myself out there to just help people with Sheets all the time. I think people would ask, I just ask, like would love, because I feel like, I've loved these chat rooms I'm a part of so much. Like, what if everyone could have somebody to chat when they're in a pinch?
Yeah, I'm all over the place with this. So I have I already created a Google Sheet add-on called ASA, Ask Sheets Anything. That's
Oh, nice.
AI inside of a sheet. And then I also have an Ask Me Anything policy. That's where Ask Sheets Anything came from, is because I have an Ask Me Anything policy. Members can just ask me, and they can email me anytime. And I have found that it's, I don't know, this is so hard. It's so hard to say because it's all over the place. Like, right, some people will email me a really good question and I can respond, or they'll ask me like, what tutorial should I watch based on this X, Y, and Z? And early on, 3 years ago, early on, this was magical for me as a business because I literally didn't know what other people wanted. I knew I had some expertise. I knew what I was making. I knew what I was making was different than what other people could. But I literally was like, what do I make a video about? And so I just had Ask Me Anything policy, and people would ask me a question. Every single answer was a tutorial. So like I have 400 tutorials now, and I keep adding
Nice.
15, 20 a month, but they're not all questions people ask. But early on, like literally out of the first 100, I think 60 were like answers to a question one person had.
That's cool. Yeah, it sounds like our blog started in similar ways.
But like
publicize my answer for internet points.
But it's sort of problematic. It's problematic, and it's also too vague, right? So I found that over time, less and less people are asking me questions. So that's really weird. I thought like, oh, people would upskill and then ask more questions and more deeper questions, I thought. And I thought people would get an answer and be like, great, now I know, now I have this resource that I can come back to. But people are like, I answer their question, they get through it, and then I never hear from them for years. And they're still a member because I sell like a lifetime deal. So like, and I keep reminding people, I'm like, you can ask me anything, but the number of questions I get does not increase with the number of members that I get, like linearly, which is interesting. I think to your point, what you mentioned earlier, is like, it might be now ChatGPT is taking over those questions. What I found, and I also I love Google Sheets, a Facebook group, and people ask questions there all the time. And it's,
oh, cool.
Well, it sounds cool until you're like, I cannot answer this question.
Yeah.
I realized that people were asking questions that are ungoogleable. If they had this question and you could just Google it or watch a YouTube video and get the answer, they would never ask me. So it's sort of a survivorship bias thing going on, right? The questions that are coming to me were not answered by Google, are now not answered by ChatGPT. So like there's more filtering out. Oh, and also I would get a lot of the same questions. So the tutorials that I put out, I have a search bar on my site so they can just search for the term.
Yeah.
If they find the tutorial, they never have to ask me, does this tutorial exist?
I know the feeling. And plus, like, I mean, I don't know how it is from a business perspective, but like, I love making the Medium blog. At the end of the day, you get maybe like $3 a month from having a bunch of blog posts. So it certainly is not like the be all end all, just a piece of the strategy.
But like, mind you, also like the number one thing that Google Sheets experts will do as a business is share that expertise, right? That every specificity, every niche, every person that creates Google Sheets or Excel, you'll see them create content. And that content will always be about and involved in Google Sheets, tips, tricks, and techniques, right?
Yeah.
And it looks like as well, I just found this out in the last few weeks and months, I've been doing much more on TikTok. And so I have to watch a lot of more TikTok now, unfortunately. And it seems like every single person who has ever made a template with pastel colors is now a TikTok star of Google Sheets. And they just have it's the same TikTok over and over again. I made this template for book tracking that looks like really pretty. And it's the same template in 100 TikToks. I'm like, oh my God, you make one template and you're a TikTok star now. I'm like, oh,
and do you think that ends up being a big, like, I guess I wonder what the outcome is, right? Like, do you think that ends up being a big actual conversion, or just means that you got a lot of attention from people? Because I've seen people sell Notion templates a lot. And I think in a lot of cases, like even when they're beautiful and helpful, there still is like, you're you're capturing like limited niches, right?
Well, it's a good for business, right? Just to get attention. It's great for business no matter what. But a good business is not in the selling it's not a selling business, it's a reorder business. I just got that line, by the way, from like a Noah Kagan interview with the guy who made oh my god, the guy who made the John Paul Mitchell, the John of John Paul Mitchell. He made also the what vodka Patron, the guy who made
Patron. I did watch that. I got served that video today.
It's so good. Just for this one line, because he's like, I'm not in the selling business, I'm in the reorder business. Like he needed, he did education too. This is, I learned a lot from that, because he created educational, not content, but he took the product and put it into people's hairdressers' hands to sell. So he had to teach hairdressers how to sell this, and he did well. But yeah, I thought that was such a good line. Like, I want to be in the reorder business, not the selling business. So I think like if you make one good template, great. You sell that template, like great, amazing. People like that template. They want to get that template. You know, we sort of just talked about an hour ago about how we want to empower people to become a wizard, but that's a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage of a percentage of a percentage of users. 2 billion Google Sheet users.
Yeah.
0.001% would like use Google Sheets as a power user. 0.01% of that would actually want to take a course or something. But 99x of that would be like, I want this template. Yeah, I want to use that. I want to get that. That sounds great. That looks great, right?
Well, I mean, if it's funny because I guess I'm doing something a little different, which is if I'm allowed to promote an app that I'm working on. I mean, the thing with the main Sheets Wizard app, yeah, well, so I actually was thinking about spinning off some components of it for building your own custom themes, because I think, frankly, that's where I excel, is the vigilante product management of Sheets, right? Like if the Google PMs forgot to do something, or just like they just don't care and don't value it, or
that template gallery is so terrible. Sorry.
Yeah, but it's just isn't it funny
must have been fired. Sorry.
Well, it's funny how, I mean, I think part of it is that they can't just make changes that impact the other editors, like a new font and like a new, like, you know, color feature or whatever, like template feature, without tons of collaboration and years of planning. And so the thing I always thought was interesting is like most of us want to deviate from the Google colors. Like most of us work for a company or a school that has a brand. And probably of my own work, the thing that I either use or I have like missed terribly when I'm at an enterprise and can't install my own app is I have a one button thing I click and it reformats my data to look kind of sexy. And I used to try to accomplish that by like saving a template into the Buzzfeed template gallery and hoping people would use it. Now it's like you could just customize your own theme and save it. And then every time you sit down to do something good looking, bam. I was even in Excel yesterday, and I am like cheating and going over to Google Sheets to use it as an art tool just because it's got more style, right? And so this is one of those things where it's like, I really do want to market this better, because to me, I'm like, this is something important. I have some I have a friend who runs a school, so he gets a free education license from me, and his students are using it for their theme and they love it. And so it's like, and I feel like I'm onto something that I need to do a better job of advocating for.
You are. I hate to admit it, but I have Sheet Styles, which is the add-on that does sounds like that, right? It doesn't templatize it like you said, it sounds like just sort of a next level version of it. But what Sheet Styles does, it's a free add-on, and it has some preset it's just background color and font color that it changes in one click, and the font itself. And it's just the one I picked.
Yep. What is it?
Sheet Styles, and it's in the
no. What's the font?
Oh, Carla.
I have to check that one out.
Yeah, but yeah, everybody has their own
lovely
favorite font, and the idea with that was, okay, let me put out the free version, and I never figured out what to do to make the paid version, because it's like, okay, I can add a drop down menu to pick your font, it already saves, like you can create a custom version, but it's just the background and text color. So like it does three things in one click: font color, and background. But like,
Yeah.
it sounds like you just have made the pro version of it, which is it's like save a brandable template, like save a template, like really like redo the style of the sheet. I just called it sheet styles.
Yeah.
But you are actually
I'm in,
stylizing the sheet.
well, again, like I'm swimming directly into like enterprise analytics mode, because the real goal is not just like for anyone to do a theme. It's essentially a table. It's actually, to be honest, it's there's very, very few things that I miss from Excel. Excel has one feature that I can think of that I'm like, Google Sheets, where has it been? And I know some of the answers as to why it's never happened, but in general, format as table is so sorely missing from Sheets, because format as table is one button and you click it and you get nice alternating rows, a header, every single column gets learned and named as a named range. Like that to me is like empirically what every person working with the data table needs. And it's just not part of the Sheets product. So yeah, that's like what keeps me, it's not the pro version. I'm in more like this like enterprise data analyst, how to like make your data look impressive to other people.
But that's one of those things that needs to occur, right? Something that looks and feels like Excel from people who move from Excel to Sheets. There is table styles, but I think it doesn't do the things you mentioned, which is named ranges and stuff. So yeah, like do it, right? There's table styles, there's sheet styles, those are free add-ons. But yeah, like the enterprise version of that is sorely needed. But specifically from those people who are like used to the Excel click, it's here. And for me, that's problematic to like discuss with like members, because I'm like fully Google Sheets. I get all the time, I get questions. I did this in Excel. How do I do it in Sheets? I'm like, I don't know how to do that in Excel. I haven't opened Excel in 10 years. Like, I don't know how to explain that because I don't know what the Excel version is.
It's where it helps to pick a lane, right?
No, this is hurting me in this case, because people are literally asking,
Oh.
I did this in Excel. How do I do this in Sheets? I'm like, I have no idea how to answer.
I mean, look, having gone back to Excel, like there's a lot I love about Microsoft, and there's a lot that they're doing great from a usability standpoint. I stand by this choice to tell people, like, if they think, I think that's like a hot take, but it's important, which is that even if you think you're really fast and really good at using Excel and it's just the only way to do it is to stay up all night with your keyboard shortcuts doing whatever it is you do with it, like Google Sheets really has become very elegant and very user friendly in a way Excel never did, and very fast. So I have a firm stance. It's like kind of like how I've lived in New York my whole life, and I can tell people, well, at least I've lived in a few other cities and gone to college elsewhere, right? Like I can at least make an educated opinion. And so I'm glad I got to use Excel a little bit more lately and be like, yeah, I definitely have my strong opinion, my loyalty.
Yeah, that's good. I have a couple last questions for you.
Yeah, please. Still lightning round.
But before that, I just have two questions at the end. Before that,
Sure.
I wanted to mention that you just linked on LinkedIn to something that I think is going to like kill a lot of businesses on and I just realized, like literally today I realized this was happening, is you linked to an article at Workspace. Now you can mail merge from a Google Sheet to
Oh my
Gmail.
gosh. Yeah.
I was like, okay, so I've used Streak, I've used Gmass, and I even ran I ran Pigeon, which is a Chrome extension in Gmail to do mail merge in
I remember that one. Yeah.
Like I ran that, like I ran it and I ended up selling it to someone else. But I'm like, oh my God, this one feature has been needed for years and Google is adding it. Like it's just, we're recording this July 11th. It's already in rapid release and it's going to come out like July 27th or something.
Yeah.
For every user, that you can mail merge directly with no integrations whatsoever from a Google Sheet up to 1,500 rows, right?
Yeah.
Do you know how many businesses that's going to kill?
I mean, I would also offer the pessimistic case, which is like the same thing like with ChatGPT when people say, oh, wow, suddenly I can search anything. And it's like, my take is you've had Google since 2006 or whatever, or the late 90s, and you could have always searched, and it's just still not people's character, right? Like people still just don't know that they could use it. So I would be surprised if it even gets used a ton. And also, like, who knows what a mail merge is? If there are people who use it, I mean, the funny thing for me is I think it's the coolest thing in the world, but I actually really find myself using document merges. That's what I tend to write. Like the idea of creating a document studio, sort of. Whereas I wonder, so yeah, I wonder like if the people who are big marketers who need to send 1,000 emails will be doing it already in some sort of something paid. But intellectually, I do think it's like it is between us, it's like the biggest thing that's ever happened. But I wonder if it'll rock the world. I'm curious.
I wonder if they're going to be able to do automated follow-ups. Probably not. That's one of those features that is in GMass and Streak and like
Yep.
sorely needed for the sales teams. Yeah, there's a lot of like, it looked like there you could mail merge any of the columns so you can personalize things, which of course I'm going to use this feature. I'm going to create like a AI plugin to like personalize outreach. I got like so many plans in my head what to do with it. So I just want to get it and use it.
Yeah. But it's also just a big deal because like it means Google's product roadmap has really changed. Like when I left, it was pre-COVID, and it was partially because of a frustration of like all of these really user-friendly features like were not part of the roadmap. Like it was all about like scaling these big businesses and scaling cloud. And now I think since COVID, when they started to sell like more licenses to common people, small business licenses, workspace licenses. So it seems to be like this really new strategy to be like, we care what the every person using Google Workspace can accomplish.
Well, specifically as like a product roadmap, I think they even said it. They said they're gonna do more integrations within Workspace, like that Gmail and Google Sheets and Docs can all work together much better, which has been sorely needed for 10 years.
Yeah.
Which is good.
We'll see. I hope so. My fingers always crossed.
Yeah, but you bring up the best point, right? Is like yeah, this feature might be really cool for me who I'm not now paying for one of these like mail merge things. And I'm like, oh, I use Google Sheets all the time. Yeah, it's great for me and life-changing, but like, yeah, for the vast majority of people, they're probably gonna still stick with Streak, GMass.
Yeah.
And those programs will find ways to differentiate themselves much more.
Oh yeah. And that'll be what matters, right? And like,
yeah,
I'll yell out one other bit of self promo. Like, I had an idea for a really fast app called Calendar to Timeline View, and it was basically the same idea as what we're describing here, which was finally Google has launched Gantt charts. I know so many people are over the moon about a timeline or a Gantt chart. It's all they want, and they're so excited. It sounds like the biggest thing, but they're going to log in and they're going to realize, oh, I still have to go through this crazy amount of effort to get calendar and time-based data into a sheet. So it's always like if Google leaves off that one feature when they ship, like what are the odds it's going to like follow in the next reasonable amount of months or low? So you kind of can swoop in there. And so I wouldn't be surprised if it's the same thing, right? Where like there's a one little thing like fast auto follow-ups or whatever you said. And if you can't do that, like there'll be a whole industry of people trying to like make some other new thing that does do that.
Yeah. And also I keep making tools that I think are going to be the next big thing. And I'm like, oh my God, somebody asked me to do this. I think it's amazing. And I did it. And then I did it in Sheets. I did it in AppScript. And then I gave it away to members. I'm like, here, it's free. Just take this script and you do this really cool thing. And nobody cares. And I'm like, wait, what? Like,
yeah, you and me both. I don't have the answer for you.
Like one of them was about this integration between Gmail and Google Sheets. It's basically in Gmail, like people will ask me a question by email and I'll answer. But what I have is I have an ask me anything policy for members. What people don't know is basically I can't tell the difference between a member emailing me and someone else. They don't say I'm a member. So what I did is someone else had this problem and I was like, wait, I think I can do this. Is I put a list of all my members in a Google Sheet and then I run an app script that just tags all of their messages in Gmail with a tag. So now I run this every day and I can see every email that comes in. It's either tagged member or it's not. So I know exactly who is a member.
I love that. Email. That's cool.
But like, for one, the person who asked me was like, is there a plugin or something? I'm like, oh no, you can do that in Google Sheets. I did it for them. They don't use it. They're like, they said, I'm not technical. I'm like, I wrote it for you. You just copy and paste this. Like,
Did,
there's nothing to be
did I,
technical about.
that was like, did I share the same anecdote earlier where I made someone a packaged up code of my work and they said, well, I don't have you working here to run it. And I was
Yeah.
like, that's the point. You
The
don't
point
need
is,
me.
like, you don't have to figure
Yeah,
this out. I
that
made
can
them,
be
I
the
think,
pull quote.
I made them
Your
a
pull
30
quote for this
second
could
Loom
be
video. But then, yeah, then I put it out for
nice.
members. I was like, oh, here's a tutorial on how to use this. Here's the script all done for you. Nobody cares. Like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. When you advertise this podcast or this episode, you can tell people, the moral is that you don't need us if you buy our work. You can do it
Yeah.
as a non-technical for a non-technical audience, no matter how dorky it is.
So, I have two more questions for you. The
Yeah,
final
please.
two questions. Thanks for sticking around so long. It's so late for
Yeah,
you.
I know. I hope people know I'm yawning just because of the hour and not because of interest.
So are you an A1 or a B2 kind of person?
A1, or I was going to say A2 is my favorite because I always have a head as a data person. I've always got a
Right.
header row
So you
with
start the header
everything.
in A1, yeah.
That's fair. Yeah. Yes. But I think of like when you talk about rote memorization, it's like every formula begins with just typing in A2 and trusting that whatever primary key I wanted is sitting there.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's funny.
A1.
Yeah. So that brings me to the last question, which is, what's your favorite formula?
Probably index match, but let me think.
Well, that's a
I
formula
do want to.
combination. That's two
That's very
formulas.
fair. That's very fair. I have an answer for you, I think. Can I give one of two?
Well, yeah, this is number 2 and 3, right? Number 1 is index match.
No, I think I want to say, even though it's problematic, I was going to say import range. And there's a specific reason as a teacher, which is, if anyone doesn't know, import range is how you can speak to another spreadsheet. So you can pull data from a whole other sheet that's not even yours. To me, that's like when I was teaching a course of like why use Google Sheets, not Excel. That was like this such a magic thing, right? It's like, wait, you mean to tell me I can import from any other sheet I have in this organization? That is like such a sea change. That's one of those moments where like you can't believe people would not prefer Google Sheets. So I love it for that. I also love to teach it in courses because and a friend Alexis, who I used to co-teach with, I think helped solidify this for me. It's like the surprise and delight. If you want to have students be like excited, even though that formula is really messy to deal with, like show them that. And then they're just like, their minds are like, wait, what did I just do? How did I make data appear? I think that's like, that's how you get that spark in people. And so I'll call that my favorite formula. Import range is my favorite formula. I really miss it in this Excel moment that I'm in.
What was the after import range? So you have index match, import range.
It would have been query. I'm learning that I'm shocked to find that Excel, they took their own approach, but they don't have like a query formula. And there have been a great many times where I have just wanted it and it's just not there. So I miss it. But the query formula is very, very cool. I think even when you start to learn how to replace it with things like AppScript or with Data Studio, and even though you don't use it a ton, like it has a place in my heart for working in the enterprise and having to show people that magic hologram of just the information they wanted to see, and building little sheets dashboards, which I now would not endorse, but are a big part of the journey.
Yeah, that query in and of itself is like an entire language, right? It's like closer to SQL, right?
Yeah. And that too, I hate, I have like this real vendetta against expecting people to know SQL, because SQL is easy to learn and it's not a big deal. And so I love SQL killers like query. I'm like, go get them. Like, just make this into normal plain language and let people do their best work and don't quiz them on dorky SQL knowledge.
Yeah, that's
So
good.
yeah,
Thanks so much.
those are my tops. Yeah, thank you for asking.
Thanks for coming. It was great. And check out, if you made it all the way to the end of this, check out sheetswizard.com. You got the .com.
Yeah,
which is great.
yeah. Surprised that domain was around. Very grateful. Gonna use it as best I can. So anyone, my contact's all there if anyone wants to reach out. And as they've heard us say, we love the questions.
Yeah, every question we love.
Bittersweetly, we love them all.
If you enjoyed that conversation and you want more conversations about spreadsheets, check out more here. Spreadsheet Talking, I have an entire playlist here on YouTube. And check out the latest video here from Better Sheets here on Better Sheets YouTube channel. Enjoy.